Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today is the start of another weekly reading vlog. It is Monday, March 7th. I'm really excited to start this vlog off because I have a lot of reading plans and a lot of books that I'm very excited to get into. February was a month where a lot of anticipated releases for me came out, so it's March now. I'm trying to get to all of them. I do have quite a few library holds that I'm trying to read this week, and I'm very excited for all of them. With the exception of my current read right now, which is a fantasy, all of the other books that I plan on reading this week are gothic horror stories, so I'm very excited for that. Definitely, I feel like February I was on a big fantasy kick, and now I'm in a horror mood, so I've got a lot of really good books that I'm excited to read this week. First of all, I do have my read that I was reading last week, bringing it into this week, and that is going to be The Final Empire, book 1 of the Mistborn series by Sanderson. This one, I'm not gonna lie, it's been on my TBR for years now at this point, and just from like the Kickstarter campaign and all of like the talk and the hype around Sanderson right now, it just really, that was like the final push to get me to pick this book up, because that man, his work ethic is insane to me, and just like the amount of love he so clearly has for the craft and for writing. I've never read a book by him before, but I'm enjoying this one. I would say probably right around 50% of the way through it. I'm on page 288. I'm hoping to wrap this up by the middle of the week. I'm enjoying it. I already have the second 2 books placed on hold at my library, so I'm looking forward to completing this series this year. Hopefully, I am having a lot of fun reading this one, and definitely it's nice, especially with some newer releases that I've been reading this year, to get to a series that at least this trilogy, this part of the series is completed. So that's going to be nice. I'm really enjoying my time reading it so far. Definitely, I would say if you're looking for a starting off point, as someone who has started and DNF'd Elantris multiple times, I think I've DNF'd it twice at this point. I personally feel like there's such a big difference between Elantris and this one, so I might go back to Elantris eventually. I think part of my issue was with the audiobook with Elantris, so I'd like to pick it up physically, but I am really enjoying this one, and I think it would be a very great starting point for Sanderson, so enjoying this one so far. And now for my horror reads of this week. I didn't intentionally set out to read like all horror this week, but all of my holds came in at the same time from the library, and I'm just so excited to get to them all, so definitely it's going to be a very horror-packed week. I'm not complaining. I'm very excited about it. First up, we have Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is probably, if I had to pick a top 5 most anticipated releases, this would definitely have made the list. It's marketed as The Shining in space, so I'm very excited. I did start this one as well. I started it tonight just because I could not wait to dive into it. So I'm already on page 54 and I'm really loving it so far. It's a sci-fi-ish horror. It really could go either way. I definitely feel like it's a horror sci-fi, but lots of sci-fi elements in the future, where this crew of technicians is doing like one last job in the far regions of space. It's pretty much their last rotation before it's going to be turned over to AI, so no more humans are going to be in this sphere of space anymore. They get a distress signal from another ship. They don't know this ship, so they go to try and investigate the source of the distress signal, and they find a ship that's been missing for over 20 years. So I'm very excited to read more into this one. I've pretty much just gotten to the point where they're about to step foot on the ship, so looking forward to that. Space is a very scary concept for me. I love haunted house horror, so I'm very excited to read more in this one. I'm going to dive into this one a little bit more after I finish this clip, and then for some other books that I'll quickly go over because my camera battery is going to run out, but I do have Tripping Arcadia by Mayquist. I believe this is a sapphic gothic sort of mystery tale, so looking forward to reading that one. And then I also have, in the haunted house theme, Devil House by Darnielle, and I'm very excited for both of these, hoping to finish Mistborn and either get further into this one or finish it before picking up these two, but I just have a lot of really good books on my TBR for this week. So I'm very much looking forward to picking up these books. That's pretty much it for this introductory clip because I'm very excited to get back into reading Dead Silence. So I will get back into this book and I will talk to you all later. Good morning, happy Wednesday. I'm just coming on to give a quick little update about Dead Silence because I love this book. Love it. I absolutely love it so far, which is so exciting because I've been so much looking forward to this one. I'm pretty much at this point, I would guess to be about exactly halfway through this, and I'm just obsessed. I knew the concept was something that was so intriguing to me, combining a lot of things about horror that I love and horror that genuinely scares me, and I'm having such a great time with this one, and I probably won't update again until I finish it because I plan on finishing it today because I just cannot stop reading this book. Yeah, I really love it. A lot of blurbs on the back comparing it to Alien. While I don't actually think this is going to be like alien horror, in terms of the horror elements, I don't think they're going to be aliens. I think it's more of like a ghost story in space. I totally understand the comparisons just based on this crew on this ship, and there's something there. And you definitely get like the very first chapter of this, it's split up into then and now chapters, and in the now chapters we have Claire, our main character, struggling to tell her employers what actually happened on the ship and what happened to her crewmates. And it seems like in the now time point she is the only one left alive, and so we'll get little snippets of that interview, her trying to convince the company that she works for that she didn't murder her crewmates. It's something aboard the ship, and then we go back to the then, which is where we spend most of the page count, honestly, and that is when her and her crew are exploring this luxury liner that has been lost in space for about 20 years. So it is very eerie, and I would definitely say if you like any sort of like found footage horror or horror where it is like exploring places, and you have like a mystery of something tragic happened at a place and our main characters are trying to figure out exactly what, and it's this creepy unsolved mystery that unfortunately they're going to solve, or like the same thing is going to happen to them. I think you would really like this one. I'm having a ton of fun reading it, very creepy, and I just absolutely cannot wait to finish this. I do have like a laid back day today. I'm not like feeling the best, so I do have a day off today, and I do plan on pretty much primarily just being in bed reading, not really doing anything else other than that. So I am very excited to finish this one. It's definitely a fast-paced read because while the setup and it's more of like a slower paced story, you're not getting like a bunch of horror right off the first page. It's a very creepy, slow, unwinding story, ghost story. I'm so intrigued to find out what happens next. It's a very fast-paced read for me, so I anticipate maybe finishing this definitely today. I'm hoping maybe to finish it by this afternoon. So yeah, I'm gonna go hopefully finish this, and I will talk to you all later. So it is 2 p.m. It's still Wednesday and I finished Dead Silence. I loved this one. I really enjoyed my time reading it. Only small little complaint is I do wish it were just a smidgen longer. I feel like all the chunky fantasy books I read like really spoil me, but this is just over 300 pages, so it's 330 something pages, and I just wish we had a little bit more time exploring some of the horrors in the ship, but I really loved this. I know a lot of comparisons, even on the back of the book, are comparing this to the movie Alien, and I think that is astute if you know like the comparison and like the extent of the comparison going into it, because this is a sci-fi horror. It does not have to do with aliens. I don't think that that's really a spoiler. You can read from the synopsis, it very much never seems like aliens. It's like a ghostly haunted house in space is how it is blurbed. So I don't want anyone going into this reading all the comparisons to Alien and thinking there's going to be a bunch of aliens in here. It's not that kind of sci-fi horror. It's definitely more of, I would say, in terms of horror, I think The Shining is a really good example of that, just in terms of the real and then also mental horrors and the internal closed offness of The Shining and the ghosts that are real or imaginary in your head or not. That feel is closer to this book in terms of the horror, but Alien, I would say you're following this crew and they are very isolated on a ship in space, and they're being picked off one by something. So because of the location and the small crew that we're following, that's more where it's like Alien, and also some other aspects that are similar to Alien that I feel like are more spoilery. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I definitely think The Shining meets Alien is a pretty good comp title for this. Also, I would say if you tend to really love ghost stories, or in movie form, found footage where people are exploring somewhere, I think you're really gonna love this. It was really perfect to kick this week off because I really enjoyed it. Haunted house in space, perfect description of this, and I definitely want to read more by this author. There are some creepy scenes in here, and not just like the space aspects that I normally find scary for me, but in terms of paranormal horror, very creepy, as well as I really enjoyed the unreliable narrator in this. This is a trope that either really works for me or really doesn't, depending on what makes the narrator unreliable and what tropes are used. So this is following like a very believable unreliable narrator, and I thought that trope was done really well in this. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Really glad that I got to finish it. Definitely one where it starts off slow and it is like a ghost story, so it's not the most fast-paced. I'd say it's faster paced towards the end, but it was definitely one where I never wanted to stop reading it. It was definitely faster paced for me, so I really enjoyed that. And of course, right after finishing that, I definitely still in the horror mood, still want some really good spooky stories for this week. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into Devil House by Darnielle. I don't know a lot about this one. Based on the synopsis though, it is another haunted house story, and it's following a true crime writer as he moves into a house where some really horrific things have happened as inspiration to write his latest true crime novel. And as he's writing this novel, and I think he gets like more entwined with the story than he anticipated, and is like struggling with the implications of true crime as a genre. So that's all I really know about this one going into it. It says that it's an epic, gripping novel about murder, truth, and the dangers of storytelling. So this one also, I feel like, gives me very much so Sinister vibes, like the movie Sinister. Very similar premise, where it's a true crime writer moving into a location where murders have happened, and then horror kind of goes from there. I am unsure as to that very basic premise, how much this would be like that, but I really did love Sinister as a movie, so I'm looking forward to picking this one up. Just definitely in a mood to read some good horror this week. I'll probably switch on and off between this and Mistborn for the rest of today. I still have a lot of today to go. I've pretty much been taking this as like a very relaxed day just because I haven't been feeling the greatest, but I did do some dishes and I'm going to do some laundry later, so you know, very exciting stuff there, but just some housekeeping things like that that need to be done. Definitely want to work on some things that take a lot of time and that you don't necessarily want to do after a day of work, but then also you don't want to waste your time on the weekend doing them either. Yeah, so probably going to get some laundry done today. I don't want to, but I have to, so I'm thinking if I manage to get into that and get on a roll with laundry, I'll probably pick up an audiobook. I don't think I'll be able to find the Final Empire. I don't think I'll be able to find that at least available, and this one's a newer release, so it'll probably have a hold on it from Libby, the app that I primarily use for audiobooks. So if I pick up an audiobook today, it's going to be something random, definitely something that is horror-esque though, because while I am really enjoying the Final Empire, Brandon Sanderson's a very good fantasy writer, I'm just like not in the mood for epic fantasy this week. So even though I will finish that this week, I'm hoping so, just to wrap it up, because I think I have like 200 pages, maybe less in that one. But the audiobook that I'll pick up if I find a random audiobook to do while I'm doing chores will like 95% probably be horror, because that's what I'm in the mood for. But that is it for this update. I'm gonna go get some reading in, do some chores, things like that, and I will talk to you all later. Good morning. It is Friday, and I might have spoken a little too soon about only reading really good books this week because, of course, I already talked to you all about how I loved Dead Silence. I wanted to jump immediately into another book because that's just really like when I finish a book, I get so much motivation to start another one, potentially to my own detriment, but I started Devil House and I am quickly DNFing this one. It's not what I thought it was, and I think I got to around page 35 or so, and if anyone has read this, specifically if anyone has read the audiobook and you liked it, let me know and I might check it out later on in that format, but this just really wasn't working for me. I was really excited about the concept. So number one, it takes place in 2001, which is not like necessarily bad, but I wasn't expecting this not to be a contemporary horror novel, and again, not that that would be like really big all on its own. However, the way this is written, and even like the format of even just like the font choices and the heading choices, make this seem like a very classic book almost. Like it feels like if you're just flipping through this book on the inside, especially with some of the characterization choices or like writing style, it feels very much like an older book, and sometimes I'm in the mood for that. I'm a big Stephen King person. I really tend to enjoy most of his work. However, I definitely think it's something that I need to be in the mindset for. So while I was reading this, I was like, okay, it feels like to me some books that I read in school where I'd be forced to read them for school and I would kind of enjoy them but kind of feel distanced from the writing style. It's just not clicking with me. So again, if the audiobook maybe is the way to go, I might check it out in the future because I was really anticipating this one and I'm kind of bummed that it just really wasn't working for me, and I felt like it was an easy enough writing style where I could have pushed through and read more, but I just felt like I was going to get in a slump if I pushed through this one. So it's not what I was signing up for, and it definitely definitely reads. It reads very dry intentionally, I think, because I think from, obviously I haven't gotten too far into it, but I think we are going to dive into the writer's, like the main character's writer, his work, and read his work as he's writing it simultaneously to the actual story. So, and he's a true crime nonfiction writer. So I think the writing style and the choices made are very intentional. And I'm not saying they're bad, just not what I am in the mood to read at the moment. So this is going back to the library, and that's okay. I might try it later. But last night I really was just feeling like after a DNF, especially with a book that I was anticipating, I wanted to pick up something that I knew I was going to love. So I am currently rereading The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I'm actually listening to it through Libro FM. I read this last year. I did read the self-pub version, and there actually have been a couple of changes in the regular version. So, or not regular, but traditionally published version that came out this month. So I've been reading that. I love it. I mean, I absolutely love that book before I'm listening to the audiobook. The audiobook, however, there are 6 main characters. They each have a different audiobook narrator, and I just really am loving that audiobook. So that's pretty much all I did last night, was just relax and listen to that. I still also haven't read any more of The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I'm still like in a horror-y mood, and I know that the Atlas 6 isn't necessarily horror, but it is like dark academia with some magical elements, and there are some gruesome things kind of that happen in there. So I am enjoying that. However, I will be picking up Tripping Arcadia either after work today or sometime this weekend. It's definitely like a fun Friday for me because, well, not so fun, but my work has water maintenance going on this morning, so we can't come in the building until a little bit later than we normally do. And today we're coming in later, but we get paid for if it were a normal day of work, so that's always exciting. It's going to be a very short Friday because normally I get to work like 7:30ish, 8ish. I don't go in until 9:30 today, so I really did enjoy sleeping in. That was really nice. Looking forward to the weekend. I leave at around 3:30ish or so, depending on how long I make my lunch. So here's hoping that the next book that I was anticipating will work for me a little bit better than Devil House. And this is a modern gothic filled to the brim with all the splendor of Great Gatsby. So I do believe this is like, could be considered more of like a gothic mystery novel rather than a horror novel. We'll have to see. I'm intrigued. S.T. Gibson, the author of Dowry of Blood, blurbed this on the back. And I know you shouldn't put like too much stock into little things like that, just because I know a lot of authors who are friends with each other that I don't necessarily enjoy all of their work, but I loved Dowry of Blood last year. So if this is anything as atmospheric as that, then highly anticipating picking this up. And I'm excited to read a sapphic book too. So those are my plans for Friday. It's hopefully going to be a short and easy day at work, and then I get to come home and it's the weekend. So yeah, nothing too much planned. It's actually interesting weather where I am. We're going under a winter advisory, which has just been so obnoxious the last couple of weeks. It's been like 80 degrees and then 40 degrees, 40 to 30 degrees. And I live in Arkansas, the South. So it's definitely not something you anticipate. So I actually don't know if I'll be getting too much done this weekend, just based on how much I think we're supposed to get, like wintry mix, like freezing rain and snow. So probably won't go anywhere or do anything if that happens. So yeah, I have to start getting ready for work. I will talk to you all a little bit later. been a couple of days since my last update, pretty much all weekend. I did a little bit of reading and I did read Tripping Arcadia. I know I said that was the plan for the weekend. I didn't actually end up getting too far into that one. I really only got to, I think, page 70 or so in this one, not even to the 100-page mark. I just really wasn't feeling a physical book so much during the weekend, so I didn't really pick this up too much. It is pretty good from what I've read of it, but again, I haven't read too much of it. I will say, based on all the blurbs and everything like that, I really thought this was going to be a period piece, like set in the 1920s, something like that. It is contemporary, and I don't think it's like contemporary. I think it's set in like 2008. It's still a little bit dated, but I was definitely going in the first couple of pages, pretty much throughout almost all of the first chapter. I was thinking, since this does have like blurbed as like a gothic Great Gatsby sort of feel, I was thinking this was set in the 1920s. It very much is not, so that's not a problem with the book. It's just something that I couldn't help but notice, but I did say I wasn't in a physical reading mood. I did listen to a good amount of an audiobook, and other than the Atlas 6, which I've just been listening to very like slowly in small increments before bed because it is a reread for me, I started and finished The Lost Village by Camilla Sten, and I really enjoyed this one. First of all, highly recommend that you listen to it via audiobook because it was translated from Swedish, I believe, and so the names of the places, locations, and people are very Swedish. So I did really enjoy actually listening to the audiobook and hearing the correct pronunciations, because I know if I would have read this physically, what I would have read would have been far different than the correct pronunciations of all the names and everything like that. But this is very much marketed. It was it came out last year, or rather it was translated last year. I believe it was originally published in 2019, but it came out in English last year. I was really looking forward to it. It was marketed as the Blair Witch Project meets Midsummer, and I would say it definitely has Blair Witch Project vibes, but I would almost give it more of a Midnight Mass kind of tone than Midsummer. I think the Midsummer was just because it was like a Swedish book, so I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of bummed I didn't get to have too many updates throughout reading it, but I read this one very quickly. I thought the audiobook was very good, and it's about a group of amateur filmmakers, and they go to this village called Silversharn, and it is a village that was like a very small isolated village, mining town. And one day in the 50s, all of the town's residents vanish, and no one has ever known what happened to them. So this young filmmaker and her crew go to this ghost village to film a documentary trying to figure out what happened to all of the inhabitants of the town and what happened there. So that's where you're kind of getting those Blair Witch Project vibes, and as soon as the crew pretty much arrives at this ghost village, creepy things start happening. So if you are looking for, I would say, at least for me, I felt like this was very fast paced, especially with audio. I was very creeped out, especially in the beginning of it, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really solid horror book. I did not like it as much as Dead Silence, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm very lucky to have read two really awesome horror books this week, especially horror written by women. Horror is still definitely in a lot of ways a very male dominated genre, as well as even though it's not like technically as male dominated as you might think, the authors that tend to receive the accolades and the awards and all of the attention tend to be male horror writers. So it was really awesome to find two incredibly good horror books. I definitely want to make a lot of horror recommendations lists this year around October, September, October. So I'm excited. Both of those are going to be on the list because I just thought they were both so creepy and really good, like ghostly horror tales. So that is going to be the end of this vlog for next week. I still have to continue on with the first book in the Mistborn series. it's nothing against that book. I just am still working on it because I have been in such a horror mood. I'm planning on continuing on with Tripping Arcadia. Hopefully I will be feeling in the physical reading mood because I've just been in like an audiobook kick lately. I think just because the two audiobooks that I kind of ended the week with, The Lost Village and then also the Atlas 6, are both wonderful audiobooks. So I'm just really enjoying that format right now. But I have been getting a lot of holds in from the library. I think pretty much all of the books except for the Atlas 6, which I purchased from Libro FM. I read all of the books from the library, which was very lucky, especially considering the fact that I did DNF one of them. But next week I do have more library books that I'm really looking forward to. Paradox Hotel, I believe this is like a time travel sort of sci-fi ghostly thriller, I believe. I'm looking forward to that. And then also another one of my most anticipated releases, Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin. This is a post-apocalyptic horror novel. So I'm trying to get to both of these next week. Looking forward to that, especially Manhunt. I have just been hearing really, really good things about this one. So I'm definitely planning on reading a lot more horror next week. Just been in such a horror kick and I've been reading mostly really great books. So that is going to be the end of this vlog. If you made it this far and if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel for more content from me. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!